constitution is still on the saddle. But however, there are debates that are persisting about the constitution's legality and its reflection of representation of ethnic nationalities. It's sparking calls for reforms. But the question is, when will the reforms come, and who will be responsible for summoning these reforms? This is the Eastern Eye. I am Alex Obodo. Welcome to the Eastern Eye here on Afia TV. It's a program that x-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. 55 years after the Biafra War, the question still rages: is Nigeria's unity negotiable, or is the current structure cast on an indestructible stone? What will be the fate of various ethnic nationalities who want a renegotiation of the current governance and administrative structure? And with very prominent Nigerians lending their voices for that call to take another look at the 1999 Constitution, is it time for that particular reforms to start? I am joined tonight on the Eastern Eye by Tony Nnadi. He is the Secretary General of the Lower Niger Congress, LNC, and the co-convener of the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, Tony Nnadi. Happy New Year to you. I'm not sure we've had any encounters this New Year. Hello, sir, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So you're very welcome to the program. And I'd like to know from you, matter of fact, with all the people that are now raising their voices for another look at Nigeria's constitution, particularly speaking now, the 1999 Constitution, what is their main call when they say, well, we need the Constitution to be tinkered with? What are they actually asking for?
Well, first is for us to understand the meaning of Constitution. Many think it is that booklet that is printed in green, white, and green. No, Constitution goes far beyond that. Constitution is the union agreement. What is it that brought the Yoruba, the Ijaw, the Igbo, the Anang, the Efik to be in one union with the Hausa, the Fulani, the Berom, and all of that? And so, at the beginning, it was the British that cobbled us together for their own purposes. And then from 1914, leading to independence, when the indigenous people began to say, "Oh no, we can govern ourselves," there were discussions that took place in Lancaster House that became the Constitution of 1960. That is, on what terms did these federating units become one political union? It was agreed in those discussions, on account of our diversity, to be a federation and a secular state. Those are the two fundamentals, because you go back to the period between 1953, when Enohoro moved the motion for independence and it was blocked by the northern delegation. That is, they said they were not ready for independence. They wanted autonomy. It all revolves around autonomy in terms of the federating units. What are they able to do for themselves? What would they mandate the center to do for them? They are the ones who will create that center. Otherwise, they will be countries of their own. Let us pay particular attention, because we are closer to losing the union in its entirety, whether in an orderly or disorderly form. People are choking in that Nigeria that the British put together. People are choking in that Nigeria that is no longer working for them, that has become like a monster, feeding on their blood. And all the agitation for restructuring, or even the ones who say, "Oh, we are fed up, we want to leave the union, Biafra Republic, Odua Republic, Ijaw resource control," they are all saying the same thing, that this union, as currently configured, is not working for us, it's not working for them, it's not working for anyone. And when we go back to the constitution that everybody is talking about, the instrument on the table, framing that Nigeria, defining the power relations in that Nigeria, defining the formations. How did we come about 36 states? from a federation of 4 regions that started as 3 in 1960, becoming 4 in 1963. How did it become 36 federating units today? How did a top tier of government get smuggled into that constitution? 774 local government areas that have now become government units that will be financed every month. 812 governments that had to gather every month and share money. Whereas at the time we had only 4 regions, there was more governance. Now we have 812 governments, and there's no government going on at all. Just people gathering to share money, because that is what the criminals who imposed this current instrument on us intended. Why do I call them criminals? Why do you put my signature on a document you don't have to discuss with me? I've been crying and shouting since at least 1999. It started in 1979 from Murtala Mohammed's commissioning of it in 1975. And everybody from every part, the Yoruba, when Abiola fell into the situation that eventually consumed him, the Yoruba practically left the union. When Awolowo ended up in prison from independence with election, it was like the union had broken down. Then it became the turn of the East. They went to Aburi to try to discuss. The union was still born. The union did not. The union agreement was not, structured in such a way that it could stand. The British that put it together knew what they were doing. It was an incomplete decolonization they deliberately did, leaving the Western minorities in the belly of Western region, the Eastern minorities, so-called the Jordan and the in the belly of majority Igbo East, leaving the Middle Belt, the majority of the North in the belly of the Caliphate North, so that at every point in time there is internal fighting. So nobody is asking Britain, what are you doing? And so where we are now is that with that unitary constitution that was a departure, what went wrong with Nigeria? Let us listen carefully, because that Nigeria we think is in place is not as much in place as we are imagining, because there are people who are talking and who are doing things 24 hours to extricate themselves. And if they now happen to be a majority, because look around the country, look at the map behind me, and you begin to ask yourself, are the Yorubas happy in this union now, despite one Bola Tinubu becoming president, or Basojo yesterday becoming president? Are they just rejoicing in this union now, despite the Jonathan that was president the other time? Is the Middle Belt happy in this? Are the Igbos rejoicing, despite being all over the country and trading as best as they could? But where the problem is that the question of union, that is, on what terms are we here today? The one of 1914, we understand. The one of 1960, again, we can say to an extent, we understand, because there were meetings that settled the question of federation, that is the question of the terms of union. That is, we will have to be a union of autonomous regions that are cooperating on definite terms, in which they have autonomy, they have control, they have ownership and control over their economic assets, and they have autonomy on so many governmental powers. That was the description of what they settled for. That was the basis of becoming one political union. And Sharia was removed when Ahmadu Bello insisted on Sharia for the northern region, and the Middle Belt, Joseph Tucker and co. said, no, it can't be so. We are not Muslims to now be governed by Sharia. They insisted on being separated from that northern region if Sharia will have to be imposed. And so the Williams Commission that dealt with the complaints of the minorities from across these 3 regions came to the conclusion that they have to remove what they did to solve the problem was to remove Sharia and put in place the one they call penal code, in which people who are not Muslims are not to be criminalized by the things that are ordinary, their own ordinary culture in the Sharia environment. And so we're saying that the fundamental agreement to be in one political union for these 3 otherwise independent units that could have been countries of their own from that 1960, the basis of becoming one political union was because they finally agreed after almost 9-10 years of serious discussions and debates to be a federation and a secular union. From the point we began to depart from that, those two being a federation, meaning that the units that were supposed to be forming the union were now, subjugated. They were toppled in 1966 when the constitutions that defined the union, 5 constitutions, 4 regional constitutions and 1 federal constitution that defined the union, got toppled from the coups of 1966.
All right.
We couldn't find settlement. It became war. After that war, instead of going to solve the problem, Murtala Mohammed now commissioned a constitution, a unitary constitution that Obasanjo helped them to process through the Constituent Assembly of 77 that became, but bottom line was that at the end of the deliberations of that Constituent Assembly, Obasanjo on the 24th of September in 1978 announced 17 amendments to the finished work of that Constituent Assembly. So what came out as 1979 Constitution had nothing to do with the people of Nigeria. It was an imposition. And then they carried it forward in 1999. Here we are today, 68 items of exclusive lists that remove all the powers, all the assets from everybody and loaded into the hands of that center, pointing guns at everybody else. Economic assets. 68 in those items, the powers to do my electricity, the power to do my road, the power to organize my security, the power to do my own refining. I have crude oil. I can't take from it to refine for my own use. I have gas. They are selling it to Europe today without talking to me. And they think they have a Nigeria that will become great. Those whose economic assets have been confiscated and hijacked by that illicit federal government, because we can't have a federal government without a federation. We have ceased to be a federation. Why do we have a federal government with all these humongous powers? How did we come about the 36 states that make me now, absolute minority that can't even raise my issue in the place of decision-making? Look at that National Assembly. How did we come about the 7 and 4 local government areas that now have to be financed by money taken from me forcefully? Yes. Look at the tax reform that they say they are doing, just dancing around the matter. Then once in a while, the governors will gather. The governors are no longer on our side of this discussion. Yes. The governors are products of this criminality. The states that are created, that produce them, pay them money every month. That is what they are interested in. The senators from each of these places, they are no longer on the side of the Joe that is crying, the Ogoni that is crying, the Yoruba that is crying, the Igbo that is crying, the Beram and the Tiv that are crying. Their governors have joined the enemy that is holding them down with this unitary constitution. That's where we are, and we say, has it not come to where if we were to rephrase the theme of this interview session, in which you're saying, interrogating the non-negotiability of Nigeria, the question should really be, is it still up for debate whether after 64 years of failure, we shouldn't go back to, reworking what is not working? Everybody is not working.
I totally get it, Mr. Nadi. Yes, Mr. Nadi. So sorry, yes. I had to. You made a point, which is, of course, that before independence, series of meetings were had between the colonial masters and the ethnic nationalities. So it looks like what is missing now is that opportunity for everyone that is concerned, if you like, you call them the stakeholders of Nigeria, or the owners, like the way you put it, for them to sit together and have discussions on how things will move forward. So that's what is missing, isn't it?
That's what's missing, and also bearing in mind, before you finish posing the question, also bearing in mind that the remedy that those who are choking in Nigeria are seeking is called self-determination, and it is inalienable. Their sovereignty has been hijacked. That's what they are complaining about. Their lands and their everything that make them humans have been taken away by the instrumentality of that forgery of a constitution. And so the remedy available to them is to take back their sovereignty, take back their land, since it is a forged instrument that they didn't make, that is now holding onto that land, making them, subjugating them into slave status in their ancestral homes. The remedy available to them is to take their portions and vacate the union of death that Nigeria has become under that unitary arrangement. And so it's not a matter of until we persuade them to come along. We don't really not need to have a meeting with them. If it's unfortunate they don't understand the meaning of constitution, so they think it's the business of National Assembly. That's a product of that scam. They don't understand the meaning of sovereignty, so they think our sovereignty is now with them because they sit in Abuja. And so what we are doing in NINAS is to place a plan on the table by which we can approach this issue and settle it in an orderly form. Otherwise, it will settle itself in the most disorderly form anybody can imagine. The owners of the lands that you now call Nigeria together are working their way out of the union of death, and they don't need any meeting with anybody blowing siren in Abuja, no matter how many guns they gather, because it is that constitution that gives them monopoly of the guns. It is that constitution that gave them our economic assets to manage in the manner they are managing without being accountable to anybody. It is that constitution that gave them immunity that is fueling their current impunity. It's that constitution that gave them the spare key to the treasury to take out the money and impoverish the people as they deem fit, unaccountable to anybody at all. And so that's the nature of what is at stake. That we can choose now to sit down and rework it to the accommodation of all, or we all remain on our high horses, pointing guns at everybody and hoping that Nigeria will become great from such a foundation of atrocity, such a foundation, a non-existent foundation, if we were to put it as it is. And so that is what, that we don't have forever. We don't have all the time we think we have now to persuade those who are not listening at all. 25 years is much more than enough of telling those who swear to defend and uphold that instrument of death that we can no longer take it. The only thing remaining now is that the NINAS is now mobilizing those who are choking in that union, the victims of unitary Nigeria, to do whatever comes within our reach to do, to stop the enforcers of unitary Nigeria. Who are those enforcers? Those who swear to defend and uphold the instrument, the constitutional instrument that makes us slaves in worse than apartheid. So it's a very clean line. And the venue we have chosen for that fight is the journey to the election of 2027. Let everybody who has an ear hear now that those who are going to 2027 elections under the 1999 Constitution will be treated as the enemies of the people. NINAS will mobilize those who suffer one thing or the other under that Constitution 1999, that fraud of 1999, to confront those who are planning to drag them to another round of election that will renew the life of that Constitution. We have endured it sufficiently, and those who insist that it must remain the basis of union undiscussed are going to have a street fight, particularly the political parties, characters like Peter Obi that say that that Constitution is not the problem. Anybody who is doing political party, the religious leader that mobilized for PBC for them, taking advantage of the ignorance of the people, all of them will have to be confronted inch by inch, meter for meter, every day until they get to the next election. We make no distinction between Party A or Party B, PDP, APC, Labour Party. They all subscribe to that constitution that dispense death to the people. They all subscribe to it, and so we do not care whether it is one party or the other that is going to win. We are saying, under which constitution are we going to this election? Because the winner of that election in 2027 will swear to defend and uphold that constitution that puts this level of impoverishment we have seen. Nigeria has become the global capital for poverty. You can see what has happened to the people. Millions of people. We now have a detached government, a government that has its own economy, different from the economy of the people. You saw the government declaring a surplus of 10 trillion just the other day. So they have their own economy, whereas the people are declaring hunger and stampede, dying for food in a country that sells over 3 million barrels of crude oil every day. And they sit in Abuja painting the face and the lips and the hairstyle of this lady that is dying in all the other parts. The leg is in Port Harcourt, rotting away. The hand is in Benue, withering away. The kidney is in Nasarawa, about to pack up. And people sit in Abuja, showcasing Abuja as that Nigeria. It is all going to collapse like a pack of cards, because you can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand there.
All right. You made a point about the plan of NINAS, because
yes.
Some people listening to you would want to know how you want to accomplish whatever it is you want to put across. It appears really that maybe the first set of people you submitted your memo to regarding what NINAS and the LNC are doing, they are no longer in power. So are you supposed to be talking to anyone, or is it a meeting you're holding on your own?
Far from it. And let those who want to satisfy themselves with evidence go to Google or wherever they can search constitutional force majeure. On the 16th of December in 2020, these nationalities, because we've been organizing since 1999. You saw when Pronaco happened. It wasn't Tony Nade and his fellow drunkards that gathered. It was a meeting that lasted 2 years of the nationalities. Yoruba came as Yoruba, Ijo came as Ijo, however they nominated themselves to be able to come. But if Nohoro is leading something, and Ojukwu is in that thing, and Wole Soyinka from the Yoruba flank is in that thing, and all of the 164 ethnic delegations that sat in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Jos, Kano, with foreign governments sending observer mission, US sent observer mission, European Union sent observer mission, all the groups that were carrying arms against Nigeria at the time, the Niger Delta Volunteer Force of Asari, Ghana Dams and his OPC, we persuaded them to put their guns aside. That is a discussion that can yield. We know what the problems are. We know what we all want. We only need to put it in an orderly form to come to an agreement. The government is the agent of the people. The government is like your employee in this matter. And so the owners of the sovereignties that are consolidated into the Union of Nigeria were the ones holding that meeting. And we finished from there. We went to court in 2007 to say that this constitution is a fraud, is a forgery. We didn't make it. It's choking us, and it's leading us to Golgotha, to damnation. From that time, it went to where solemn assemblies then happened of people coming out in their spaces. You saw the day the Yoruba did their own in Adamasingba Stadium in Ibadan. The governors were all there. Who else do you want to see in the process that became NINAS eventually? And NINAS then rolled out 128 statesmen signing onto one document with people from all the parts coming from this process that had lasted 20 years up to that point, in which they were saying, let us take a break from further elections and go to sit down like South Africa did to ease itself out of apartheid in 1990. Is that too much to ask? We are not asking those in government house to vacate, or we're not going to behead them. We're saying, look, whoever is in government house, remain in government house in this transitional period for the purpose of providing nominal governance. In the period we need to have this discussion. And it shouldn't take more than 6 months, 1 year to bring it to where it becomes the replacement for that imposition that is choking everybody. That's the only thing. And so talking about who it was presented to, on the date that force majeure was presented, that is this plan, this proposition for how it can be done, start to finish. Buhari was president. APC government was in place. The leader of that party is the current president. That current president, Bola Tinubu, he became governor of Lagos from our fold in Nadeko. At what point did he now become a stranger? All the time he was governor when Obasanjo was seizing council fund, we were all together in trying to say this is a federation, it cannot be so. Then he comes all the way from there to now take a faction of that party to go and join up with the caliphate that was looking for how to overrun everybody. And we got to this. There's nobody in government today that will say he has not, because this government is a continuum. We presented what it was. It is still printed as it is in Guardian newspaper of January 20th, 2021, 4 full pages, signed by 128 statesmen, including people who have been service chiefs, governors, a former vice president of the country. All of us saying, look, we have a problem. Let us acknowledge the problem for what it is, the constitution, the unitary constitutional arrangement. Let us commit to solving the problem, total decommissioning of that instrument. Let us stop the journey to election that is mandated by that constitution so that we can deal with it sooner than later. Let us now acknowledge that and accept that it is the owners of the sovereignty that will have to come to decide this matter, not the National Assembly that's a product of that constitution. And then let us put a time frame to it by making an announcement. Those are the 5 points of the 5-point proposition of Nina. Why is it impossible for those who are swearing to defend that, who are pointing guns at us, who now see that the country is bleeding to death? The citizens are running in all kinds of directions. See them all over the world. From what are they running? That they are prepared to die in the desert, swim and die in the Mediterranean. Young people with no future. Yet billions and trillions are being shared every month. But it is that constitution that mandates the people to everything people in government are doing today. That constitution mandates, including the corruption, including the impunity, including the insecurity. If you want to solve insecurity, let those who live in that insecurity be part of organizing their security. Let us see who will come to overrun them. But you say no. I don't have electricity. I can generate electricity. You use that constitution to lock it down. I can do my road. You say no, it's federal road. They will mine. I can organize my elections and select the best amongst our people to govern us. You say INEC. And look at the kind of lunatics they process for us every day.
All right, so with everything you have mentioned now, one will be looking at a situation where there's supposed to be some kind of a table, whether it is round or rectangular. People will need to sit down and have a discussion. Because you referenced the South Africa situation. They had their peace and reconciliation where Nelson Mandela, but of course, the ethnic nationalities, are they all asking for the same thing? Because you've referenced Ijaw, Birum, Yoruba. Are they all asking for the same thing? Because for some of them, they think that they are getting the shorter end of the stick. Are they all asking for the same thing? Or are we sensing some kind of discordant voices here?
The reality is that they may not know it as I know it. I have a training. I'm a lawyer with specialty in that area of law called jurisprudence. So I'm able to articulate it for what it is. For the 12 states that you see the map behind me, for those 12 contiguous states that imposed Sharia simultaneously in year 2000, they were seceding from your secular union. They are no longer. They were living their whatever life they were living before the British came in 1914 with your Nigeria. They want to return to that Sharia, and they have cried and shouted. Nobody was going to listen, and so they decided to take things into their hands to impose to declare Sharia, meaning that they are no longer interested in building that secular union with you. It is called self-determination, and if they will do that, if you were to ask them, they will come to the table with that grievance to say, look, this is what we want, and you are not giving it to us, therefore we are fed up. The same thing with those who are waving Odua flag. You saw them in Downing Street the other day. You saw them in Ibadan trying to beat up the governor in one corner. And so they are all rejecting the Nigeria that is that has become their owner. Nigeria that has become a monster that is choking them. The same thing with those waving Biafra flag. The same thing with those who are talking about resource control. Whichever way they put it, the important thing is that they are demanding a reconstruction, a renegotiation, and a reconfiguration of the constitutional arrangements of Nigeria. That's all they are doing. And it is called, that demand for restructuring is a desire for self-determination. What is self-determination? It is on account of their sovereignty that that right to decide how they live in their space accrues to them. That is the global, that's the global standard on that subject matter. The Germans are in Germany, governing Germany. The French are in France, governing France. The Scottish want to govern their Scotland away from UK. It is called self-determination, and it's an inalienable right. Nobody has to agree with you outside your own space. And so what has to happen is that sanity should return whilst we can still settle this matter. What is that sanity? I'm sure you heard of Obasanjo that imposed that instrument in 1979. You heard him clearly in Port Harcourt saying that Nigeria cannot progress to anywhere else except the owners of the country are allowed, that's the peoples of Nigeria, that could be countries of their own, are allowed to go to sit down to renegotiate their union and work out what will become constitution they want to defend. That's Obasanjo. You had Emeka Anyoko after his initial error of thinking that there will be a draft constitution for a start, saying, no, 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 no. Let everybody come and discuss, and that even if you bring in Michael to manage Nigeria as it is, that Michael will fail. You had Ngozi Okonjo coming to address the lawyers' meeting to say it is because we have not settled the social contract that the country is upside down. You had Kingsley Moghalu saying so, that no economy can be built on the constitution that is upside down. You had Sarah K. Dixon. You had Obong Victor Atta breaking it down further just a few days ago. Who else do you want to hear on this matter? Or is it when the place goes up in flames again, like it did in 1967? And so we are saying that it is a matter of accepting that we have a problem, unlike what is going on now, where people sit in Abuja reeling out animal farm statistics for us about how GDP is growing. You have an economy that is detached from the people. The people are dying in millions, and you are declaring surplus of 10 trillion and 6 trillion for a government, you know, pursuing development paradigms that have nothing to do with human beings. Only those in government house will share the billions and trillions, and then you think you are building something, and you come and sing anthem among yourself. Put yourself in the shoes of those who are the receiving end of that criminality, because Nigeria has become a criminal enterprise under that constitution. We are saying that let us, those who are planning to go to it, because we have already defined what our right is in the circumstance. Our right is the right to self-determination. It accrues to us on account of our sovereignty. Nobody has ever been able to take away the sovereignty of the other. It may be suppressed. What we have now is a sovereignty, no different from the British occupation of the time. The sovereignty that is, goes by the name Federal Republic of Nigeria or Federal Government of Nigeria, they are just suppressing our sovereignty. We have organized the owners of that sovereignty, whether they were Tiv or Ido or Abero Mohanang or Efik, even the Yoruba. Buhari was part of the Fulani delegation that came to Pronac. Soya Abubakar, that is Sultan in Sokoto today, was part of the Fulani delegation that came. The question you asked about whether the nationalities are all agreed, all of them were, just to remind us that we're in Nigeria, all of them,
we can see that.
not to worry,
yeah,
just the camera for a moment.
Yeah,
okay.
Just go ahead.
Right. All of the nationalities, the question you should be asking, which nationality was absent at the time these things were being discussed, whether it was in Pronaco or in the solemn assemblies that happened in all the blocks. You had the Hausa the other day saying that the Fulani are killing them off on their land. So everybody is in this demand for us to go and rework this arrangement. And before I forget, just 2 days ago or so, somebody sent me a video of somebody I may want to, for a better way of describing it, I would think that person that made that video is a semi-literate. His name is Sam Okori or somebody. He says a Catholic priest in one corner of Abakaliki. He made a video abusing us for what we are saying, that Matthew Kuka and Asalam Abaka will be chairman and secretary of peace committee that will preside over management of election anchored on a constitution of injustice. And so when you listen to him, when you listen to that video, I think it's titled 10 Questions Tony Nnadi and Ninas Must Answer. This lawyer, he claims to be a lawyer, does not understand the meaning of constitution. So he thinks it's the National Assembly that has to do everything about constitution. He doesn't understand the meaning of just sovereignty. He thinks the government is the one that will have to, and we have to do obeisance to them. So I use this opportunity because since he says he's a lawyer, he's also a Catholic priest, talking to the people every day. If at that level, he may have a PhD in one corner. If at that level, he will display such a, if I were to put it in Igbo so that he can understand it, he is the type Igbo will call E.T. Sam, yes, Sam, or the whatever, Okori, in Abakaliki Catholic priest, lawyer, is an E.T. by Igbo description. That is the imbecilic level of ignorance, to come public, making a podcast of saying that we are ignorant in what we mean, why he doesn't understand his left from his right in the matter. And if he says the lawyer, you can then imagine the case of the ordinary people. And where is the media in all of this? Where is Arise TV in all of this? Where are the other TV channels in this discussion? They are carrying on discussing economic growth that left the citizens behind.
All right.
This is what we should be discussing until we go into that meeting. And
and
time is running out. Those who are planning to go to election, they are going to be challenged every step of the way between now and the time they will gather, because they want to show the constitution under which they will provide that good leadership when they get there.
Mr. Nadi, I'm very interested in how that meeting will happen, because it needs to happen. Even the Bible talked about how can two live together except they agree. There has to be some kind of... It takes only one announcement. It takes one announcement, and all the paperwork has been done. It takes one announcement. Those who sit in Abuja. Who will make the announcement?
Those who sit in Abuja, the one who is president, the ones who gather with him as governor and governor's forum, all of them who pretend they are not hearing what the people are saying from across the length and breadth of Nigeria, sitting in Abuja. We are saying that the time has come for something to whisper to them that they've not become the owners of our sovereignty. Therefore, to come down from their high horse so that a discussion can take place around the propositions for how these things can be done. There are many who have been thinking about it, but Ninas actually has something on the table that can become, if anybody has a better proposition for how it can be done, Ninas has the how. Everybody knows what needs to be done. The problem has always been how. You saw Fakbounda and his draft. You saw the Patriots and their draft. You saw everybody saying that we must go and do something, but Ninas put on the table something that provides the answer for that how. It only takes the government acknowledging that we have a problem that needs to be solved. And if after all of what we have done to try to get them to see it, and they are going to borrow money from all over the world, collapsing the naira, beyond redemption, and impoverishing the people to the point where people are now dying to go and get one piece of food or the other, I tell you, they won't travel far. Those who are choking are going to challenge the situation, especially for those who are planning to go to another election, because we have chosen the election as the venue for settling this fight. Those who want to go to election are telling us that they want things to remain the way they are. You can see what has happened to the political parties, the Labour Party and the PDP. What is going to happen if election is just that the one in place now will carry on unopposed. That's what's going to happen. The constitution we're saying is choking us will remain in place. And so all of those who want to keep it so, by trying to go to election, are going to be on one side. All of those who are choking are going to be on the other side. But we're going to get them to see that the sovereignty belongs to the people. That's why they say power belongs to the people. Go to section 14.2a of that constitution to hear what the ones who wrote even this disputed constitution acknowledge there. They say sovereignty belongs to the people, from whom government, through this constitution, derives all its powers and authority. Meaning that if the people have not made a constitution, there's no document you can throw from anywhere that will become constitution. And there are 3 stages to it. There are 3 issues that have to be resolved before we can have anything that will settle this matter. What are those 3 issues? Go back to that preamble. The first claim that we, the people, meaning you have to get down to where it is the job, sitting as a job, the Ogoni sitting as Ogoni that are discussing, Yoruba sitting as Yoruba discussing. Then, in the claim that solemnly resolved to live in unity forever as one indivisible, it must be their decision, because it is in that discussion that they will now settle the terms. Then they say, make and give unto ourselves the following constitution. Those are 3 falsehoods that we, the people, we were never consulted. Solemnly agreed to live forever. It never happened. There was no meeting called. It was Absalom Abaka and his co-travelers. With this quota professor they call, what's his name again, that presided, that midwifed it, Yadudu, that midwifed it for them. And so we have not made any constitution. And we have this instrument that has ruined our lives, to no end. And we're saying, let us put it aside, go into a transition like South Africa did in 1990 to work out what will replace. We're not anarchists, but that offer for that transition that will accommodate those in power now, whether they're governor or they're senator or their president. That offer can only be there as long as the people who are choking have not stepped out to salvage themselves.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Nadi. Yes. I like the fact that you said that you are not anarchists. And just for us to be clear, you are not asking for a change of government. You are saying that, all right, we need to renegotiate the terms of the union, isn't it?
Very much so.
That's what you're asking for. So, but then it looks like those currently in government don't seem to be listening to that. And how do you get them to pay attention? And because from what you are saying, you are sounding some kind of caution that time is running out, the time is ticking. Clearly, from your tone, it doesn't look like there's enough time to wait and listen to them whether they will respond. So, the point I'm making again, which I want a proper response to, because you keep referring me to that Vanguard publication. Have you made another official move to present a document or a press statement or something to the government of the day to say, this, just like Emeka Anyoku and group did, you may not agree with what they proposed, but they proposed something. I mean, you can make a move and also propose something and put it on the table so that history will remember that you did.
It's not, I'm not, you talk as if it's one,
but it's not, but when I say you, I mean LNC and Nina. So
hold on. There's an organized, there's a body of people representing the peoples of Nigeria. They may not have been elected in any particular manner, but they worked together for 20 years, making sure that everybody was on the table. The government was invited. Obasanjo actually went on national TV at the time. He was president at the time, and he said that what we were doing will amount to treason. We had to defy him at the time. In fact, more people began to return. Soyinka was already retired and living in California at the time. He came back and said, oh, if it is treason, then let all of us go to prison. You are going to lock up Ojukwu, you are going to lock up Nohru, you are going to lock up Ibn Buhari, that was party, was opposition leader at the time. You are going to lock up Bankole Oki, you are going to lock up Bishop Bonigi and all of that. So we were going to lock up the leaders of all the agitation groups that were armed, but which were ready to listen to us in that period that the government had lost control of all of them. And so we had this thing. It's not a newspaper, it's not a publication we're talking about. It is the fact that there is something that was written down and presented to the government of the day. It is that same party, those same people that were doing that governance at the only person that has moved from among them is Buhari himself. Unless they are saying that the government died and this is another one that has nothing to do with that other one. Government is a continuum. We will not waste any energy to come to represent it to them. If they are waiting for that, they will not get that. The document is there. We've referred to where it is in print. They have to go to look at it themselves. And there are people in that government who were very much a part of how it got to where we presented it the other time. So it is still sitting there with government. We took it to the UN Security Council and the Trusteeship Council because the world will soon hear that the owners of Nigeria are dismantling their stupid union. That is what the world will hear. That the Ijaw are fed up, the Yoruba fed up, the Ogoni fed up. Tell me who wants Nigeria the way it is. Tell me one group other than the drunkards that are seated pretending to be acting on behalf of all of us, whereas it is our forged signature that mandates them. Our signature we didn't make, that they put on an instrument that took our economic assets, put in their hands, get them the spare key to the treasury, get them the guns in monopoly, and they hung onto it. Even with all of the efforts we have made to say, can we go to sit down and look at this matter again? Nobody's going to present anything to anybody in Abuja anymore. the owners of the lands you call Nigeria, Yoruba will be a country of 60, 70 million people today if Nigeria were to fail to be. The eastern side, the eastern half of southern Nigeria, look at this map. The constitutions that will replace this fraud we're talking about are already in process. They will be taken to ratification in the public space. We do not owe anybody in government any explanation for why the owners of the land will be working to take their portions. If they want to solve the problem, like we are proposing in writing, we are proposing, and I'll refer to it again, 4 pages in Guardian newspaper, not Vanguard. Guardian newspaper Guardian. Of the 20th of January in 2021. It is still sitting there, signed by 128 signatories, including people who have been vice presidents and governors and service chiefs of the military. All right. Of them now retired. So if it's not enough that we put something as precise as that on the table before the government that is still continuing, was it not the president that told us he's carrying on from where his immediate predecessor stopped? They were all the same party. They've all been involved in the processes across the last 25 years. So nobody is coming to Abuja to come and represent it to them. The remedy for what we seek to extricate ourselves from is called self-determination. It does not require the approval.
Well, unfortunately,
the mediocrity will catch up with them on this occasion.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, and I have to thank you so much. Tony Nnadi, Secretary General, Lower Niger Congress, LNC, and co-convener of the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS. Thank you always for your very spirited contributions on the Eastern Eye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and that's the Eastern Eye for tonight. We'll be here same time tomorrow. Up next is Nka with Jumai Bulama Ashebu. My name is Alex Obodo. Good night.